OpenAI just launched its flagship model ChatGPT 5, and the response has been a mixed bag of reviews. Some say it's great, some say otherwise. So I decided to try it out myself. But before I show you the MVP that I have built, let's take a look at all the new features and upgrades that come with GPT-5. Well, first of all, you have the built-in thinking or the auto-switching feature, which is essentially GPT-5 switching between different versions of itself based on the prompt that has been given. So it can either slow down and reason step by step or answer quickly. This leads to less micromanaging required of prompts, prompt fiddling, but you can give high-level instructions and expect coherent end-to-end outputs. Secondly, there's much bigger context windows, which means that you can have larger conversations, you can drop in large PRDs, transcripts, and access all of them in a single go. Thirdly, there are multiple tools now that work with GPT-5. So vision, code execution, browsing, file handling, all of them are unified under the same model. You can mix PDFs, screenshots, spreadsheets, etc. This means there's less context switching between applications and faster discovery leads to better decision loops. There's also extra goodies for builders, which means when using APIs, you get stronger JSON function calling, better streaming, better context, and more consistent tool use across modalities. Last but not the least, you have safety and factuality upgrades, which means improved guardrails, policy adherence, and factual grounding, leading to a reduction in off-topic and risky outputs. So given that there are all of these new features and upgrades, I decided to put my product manager's hat on and think, can I build an MVP? Just using ChatGPT, Cursor, and OpenAI's API calls. Well, the answer is yes, I can. So I decided to use the skeleton that every product manager uses with various steps and build one of my own. So how do you build a minimum viable product? We start with exploring an existing problem statement, identifying the job to be done, conducting market research, creating a hypothesis, applying the DVF framework to the hypothesis, that's understanding the desirability, viability, and feasibility. Finally, we then create a solution, develop a user journey roadmap, prioritize features, and then implement and iterate on the solution until we get the final product that we want. Let's start with step number 1, exploring an existing problem statement. I love to travel, and so I decided to find a problem statement within the travel sector. Planning still feels scattered. Travelers often bounce between multiple websites and have hundreds of tabs open at the same time, where they're looking at flight details, blogs, weather apps, YouTube videos, packing checklists, and whatnot. They eventually manually stitch all of this together and try to create something out of nothing. It's a slow, error-prone process that does not adapt to budgets, dates, or interests. So the core pain point in the market currently is there's a lot of fragmented information, and this leads to decision fatigue, which leads me to identifying what the job to be done is. When a traveler is planning a trip, they want help in terms of converting a destination and dates into a realistic personalized plan so that they feel confident and excited without spending hours into research, rather than feeling desperate and confused by researching hundreds of tabs and looking at multiple websites. So I decided to conduct more research into this idea. I looked at existing players. OTAs optimize booking funnels, guide blogs offer inspirations, but there's no personalization. Itinerary apps often rely on static lists and user-generated content, but that does not adapt to budget and timing. Given that the market clearly shouts that there is a need for a tool that leads to personalization for a traveler when they're planning a trip, I created the hypothesis that a tool like TravelBuddy can combine live context with curated points of interest and user preferences into a single explainable plan, and users will feel confident to move from browsing to committing. They can create an itinerary within less than 3 minutes, and that can give users confidence to move ahead. Applying the DVF framework to this hypothesis, the desirability is clearly there. Users want a personalized, trustworthy plan. In terms of viability, this would last a long time, as users would constantly come back to their trustworthy and personalized plan over opening multiple sites at the same time and getting confused by various ideas and hundreds of information that currently exists in the market. In terms of feasibility, let me show you how I built TravelBuddy and what my MVP looks like. This is TravelBuddy, an MVP tool that I created over the weekend, something that takes less than 2 days. Now let's see how it works. Let's assume a user wishes to travel from New York to Muscat, Oman, and the user has planned dates between the 22nd of August and the 28th of August. So that's a duration of 7 days. And the reason for travel is that they're going on a vacation. Let's say their budget is $2,500 and their preferences are heritage sites and street food. Let's see what TravelBuddy comes up with when we decide to plan the trip for them. What we notice here is that it gives us an estimated round trip airfare. It tells us what mode of transportation can be used and the websites to book the tickets from. It gives us the activities, the budget. The budget is divided into 3 buckets. Each bucket tells us exactly what the split is going to be, whereas you can differentiate between affordable and pocket friendly and luxury. It also gives us what the weather is going to be like throughout the journey for those 7 days. Not only that, it also shows us in the packing list what are the items that the user can pack or must plan for. And lastly, it gives you the safety and emergency numbers that are important for every tourist to have when they're visiting that country. But let's say that the user suddenly hits a lottery and their budget becomes double of what it was previously. Let's say it's $5,000 now. Now when we plan the trip, TravelBuddy smartly adjusts the budget and changes each bucket. It changes what affordable is, it changes what pocket friendly is, and it changes what luxury is. And all of those changes are made to adjust to the new budget that the user has entered. And this is not just for Muscat. What if the user is going to Rome, Italy? What happens then? Well, when we click on plan the trip, we now get a completely different itinerary with a new budget, new airfare, new links, new website, and we even get new emergency numbers. TravelBuddy is able to adjust accordingly for every location and for every type of budget. And this is TravelBuddy. Let's go back to the steps to build an MVP. The next step is to build a user journey roadmap. I've created a user journey roadmap in a tabular form that covers 6 stages all the way from discover till post-trip, where the user reflects and shares the learnings. Let's take one of the stages and deep dive. The second stage, consider. The user goal is to see if the trip is feasible for that time and that budget. The key actions for the user is to compare the budget versus time, check the best season, and assess logistical risks. Currently in status quo, it's hard to estimate costs and there's a lot of currency confusion. Multiple users on various other websites would give their own personal reviews and their own personal budgets, and that creates the confusion. TravelBuddy solves this problem by giving a dynamic budget and allowing users to play with the interface and with the budget slider to identify exactly which bucket would suit them, whether it's pocket friendly, whether it's affordable, or whether it's luxury. The success metric that I have written is the number of interactions that happen with the budget slider. And the primary touch points include budget section, travel table, money, and connectivity. Now let's move on to the experience curve. For the experience curve on the y-axis, I've taken emotion and confidence ranging from 1 to 5. And on the x-axis, I've taken the journey stage ranging from 1 to 8. Although I was able to build this project in just a few days, GPT-5 did have its share of cons. So let's look at both the pros and cons of GPT-5 that I learned from while doing this project. Firstly, let's look at the positives. The auto-switching feature is a big hit. I genuinely enjoyed this feature and I thought this is a great addition to GPT-5. I also noticed reduced hallucinations. Hallucinations still exist, but they are very minimum, and they are, in my experience, at least for this project, they are lesser than what I have seen in previous versions. And lastly, I think the most important one is solving complex problems. It's able to solve complex problems much better because of this auto switching feature and because of its better ability to think critically. While there are some positives, there are also negatives. Firstly, I think it's still behind Claude and GitHub Copilot and Amazon Code Whisper when it comes to coding. Secondly, I noticed short-term issues like forgetting context. At times that I would give GPT-5 a context for this project, and after a few prompts, it would just forget the context, and then I had to remind it back. And lastly, it was unable to pick up patterns at times. At times, it was picking up patterns even before I could start hinting them, but sometimes I would just hint at patterns and it wouldn't pick up. So these were the pros and cons, and I think GPT-5 has definitely been an upgrade and an improvement from previous versions in many things and many aspects, but there's still scope for improvement and there's a long way to go for GPT-5.